Hello there, Barbara Derrick from Native Studio Art. How's everybody today? I thought I would just pop in. I had a few things I wanted to share today in terms of helping you, and maybe you have a question. I was working on a beaded vamp. I'm doing footwear with a customer, and I like to do samples. So while I was doing a sample, I don't know if you can see this. So this is a vamp. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm beading this, because I have to create a pathway for my customer. My customer knows zero about footwear. And they're not just any kind of footwear, because there are all kinds of moccasin making programs out there. It started out with my training as an instructor in the traditional arts, and I have a sample from my training of that program in the cultural arts, and it's go over here. So it's a sheepskin moccasin, and just a little bit about what a vamp is. So ideally, the vamp that I showed you would go in the front of the moccasin, right? Kind of like, oops. If you have any comments or anything you'd like to share, you can put them in the comment section below. I'm not sure I can see your comments as I'm operating my Ferrari. I'm still new at it, ecamm.live. If I do believe that you'll see a link somewhere in this televised cast that you can click on and just allow ecamm to send you here so that you can comment. Well, back to the vamp. It looks like that when it's sewed in. This moccasin is a little bit too big for me. The measurements weren't taken right, and I didn't want to do that to my customer. But the problem comes with measurement. And the measurement is different from fluffy sheepskin material to leather. You see the thickness. It makes a big difference. Then when I went to look at my directions, I realized that not all my directions were there in terms of measurement. So I thought, everybody's doing this. Everybody sells footwear. Everybody is teaching making moccasins. So I went out there and I spent a day. I am not kidding. 15 different videos. And if you don't know how to make footwear from the beginning to the end, you're going to be one frustrated person. I know what I'm doing with the footwear, so I was a bit frustrated because there was one lady who said, okay, this is supposed to be a cuff. And if I angle it, it could be the tongue. I think that's what she was trying to say. See, we don't want the fluffy. And she said something about putting a tongue here. I'm like, but this is one whole piece. So, okay. I went looking for another video. And while I was making the video, I was sewing this one together. I always start off with a sample, because as an instructor or teacher in the field of the arts and leadership, and I'll get to that later if I remember, footwear. Okay, this is a sample of this. No tongue. How big does a tongue have to be? And shouldn't it have laces? And I realized that the pad and the vamp, this is the pad, and the vamp are associated with mukluk making. Now I take pretty good notes, and I figured this out, because with mucklucks you attach to this. This is also too big for my feet. Oh, I'm scratching my head and I'm thinking, wow, I'm really an instructor that likes lesson planning. And here's the reason why. When I sat down and I thought about what it was my customer wanted to make. See, my customers tell me what they would like to make, and it's sort of like a coaching process, because they're creating the course for them to be for them. You know what I mean? If you come into my course and you're already doing footwear and all you want to do is learn how to bead, then why would I teach you footwear? It's like a dentist going to an engineer to get dental programming. I know. Let's shoot that in there, because thank you, Dave Gamble, for the encouragement. And if any of you on my lives hear this name, I'll put his name in my field. He has a mentorship, and it's all on technology. And he's been really encouraging, and it's helped me become persistent about what I'm doing. Now, in short, back to the moccasins. So I sat down and I copied everything I created from part 1 to all these steps, which is a lesson plan strategy to come up with this. Okay, this is a draft. You can't wear it. It's made out of felt. I think I could still do better, but I have something to work with my customer. I keep... Custer, where is that coming? Oh, I'm getting all excited. I've added a tongue. And also, in my next design, because there's no cuff, there's barely a cuff, I've added a cuff, a bigger cuff. Okay? The laces should be differently placed, but ideally, when the vamp goes in, it goes like that. Lesson plans. When I say lesson plan, it's the planning stages of creating something. Step 1, step 2, step 3. This is a whole nother video, but just hear me out on this. Knowledge. The student will understand the origin of the Sioux soft sole moccasin. Okay? Along with that understanding would be the materials they used and why it was worn and why it was created. Did you know that pucker toe moccasins, this is not one of them, but up in the top here, I always call them the ugly, they look ugly because they're all puckered. We're actually puckered to keep pine needles out of the footwear when strolling through the bush. That's what. The students will understand, or the students will recognize the value of the Sioux-styled moccasin. Well, what's the value to that origin or to the people? What would be the reason for deer hide versus fabric? What would be the reason, right? These are the things you build into your lesson plan. And lastly, the student will be able to complete what are the steps. Like this isn't goal setting. What are they going to apply? Apply their knowledge and completing this moccasin. Well, there's a whole different thing for the beading, isn't there? There's also the knowledge about the beading and that. And while I'm going and talking about this, I was talking to a friend in Tennessee about salesmanship. How to sell, which is more about what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. Selling is a business. I hear it all the time. There's blueprints, marketplace blueprints, or sales strategies, or all these items that there's no such thing as get rich, get quick. But I'll tell you that when you have a good lesson plan, it really, really reminds me of good business. Because in my lesson plan, quality control is even and consistent stitching. My customers are not going to buy crooked beading, complementary beadwork. Look at the colors of the rainbow. Would you be buying this? Or would you be buying this? Just one last note before I take off today, and I wish I could see your comments. When I get off, I will take a look at the comments. Here's a moccasin. This is what I call, this is not judgment, this is evaluative critique. The stitches in the toes here remind me of a diaper. You know, the ruffly part of the diaper? That is the reason, there is a reason for the inconsistency of the stitching. Now, some people like that, but I don't. When we're making our moccasins, it should look more like this. See the stitch work? Move that from my face. See the stitch work? It's kind of like, this is gentle and gradual. Now these are the first pair of moccasins that I made. And so you can see the difference. And that's because they're gathered ever so slightly. There's a whole technique behind that, right? So when I think about knowledge of the arts, the areas that I teach, I've been doing this for quite a while. I want to say, like I said before, I've been painting since I was 3 when I got into my mother's purse and found her lipstick. And maybe that was 2, I don't know. I'm an interpreter. I find the shortcuts, but they're not necessarily shortcuts. I help you understand from A and to completion, see, to the win. This is what I call a win. And there are steps to a win. And in the beginning, if it looks like this, we take it apart and fail forward, start again. So thanks for bearing with me today, and I'll be on more regularly with some features of thoughts. Tell me what you think, and you have a wonderful spring day. Bye-bye for now.